Steelers fans, buckle up, because in just 1 week we've seen one of our top targets limp off the field with a tweaked knee, trade rumors heating up over a potential all-pro wideout, Rodgers stumbling through training camp, and to top it all off, there's a polarizing quarterback name making the rounds, a guy with talent and controversy in equal measure, and he just might be the next to wear the black and gold. Jack Romano here, and I gotta ask, are the Steelers aiming for glory or diving headfirst into the deep end? But hey, before we dive into the latest chaos out of Pittsburgh, just do me one quick favor. If you're into this kind of analysis, hit that subscribe button. It helps keep this community of die-hard Steelers fans alive and kicking. Let's ride. The first grenade of the week hit our offense. Jonnu Smith left practice with knee soreness. Now look, it's not doomsday, but it's not nothing either. Coach Tomlin tried to play it down, called it just a sore knee, said they're monitoring it. You know, the usual coach talk. But bottom line, he walked off and grabbed the cart, even if he wasn't limping. And when it's August and your offensive plan is still being pieced together, losing a key guy this early raises all kinds of red flags. Don't forget, Jonnu's not just some roster filler. He came in a deal that involved Minkah Fitzpatrick and now reunites with Arthur Smith, his old OC from Tennessee. He was set to start alongside Freiermuth, with Darnell Washington rounding out what was looking like a scary three-headed monster at tight end. But with Jonnu sidelined, even temporarily, the whole structure shifts. Don't expect him to play in the first preseason game against Jacksonville. That opens the door for the depth chart underdogs. Connor Hayward is pretty much a roster lock, but DJ Thomas-Jones and JJ Galbraith have been turning heads in camp. And if you've been watching, you know these kids can ball. This is their shot to earn a spot. But let me be real with you. This kind of injury, people shrug it off until it snowballs into something chronic. We've seen this story in Pittsburgh before. Starts as just soreness. Then the guy's inactive for 3 straight games. And in an offense that's still trying to build chemistry with Rodgers, losing any piece of the puzzle early on could derail everything. Especially when Arthur Smith was planning to lean heavily on multi-tight end sets. So yeah, it's early, but this is a big warning sign. What do you think? Is Jonnu just resting up or are they hiding something? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And speaking of offense, hold on tight, because a trade proposal is making waves and it could shake up the entire wide receiver room, including DK Metcalf. Alright Steelers faithful, get ready for this. There's serious buzz building around a trade that would bring none other than Terry McLaurin, yes, that McLaurin, to Pittsburgh. This isn't coming out of nowhere. Bleacher Report's Christopher Knox dropped the bomb. The Steelers would send a 2026 second-round pick plus Calvin Austin III to the Commanders, in exchange for McLaurin. And honestly, it's not as crazy as it sounds, especially when you consider that McLaurin has already asked out of Washington. According to ESPN, he's fed up with stalled contract talks and officially requested a trade. So let's lay it all out, just like we used to over a beer on Carson Street. Imagine this offense. Rodgers slinging it to DK Metcalf on one side, McLaurin on the other. That's nightmare fuel for any defensive coordinator in the league. The man had 82 catches, 1,096 yards, and 13 touchdowns last year, and made All-Pro. He's got surgical route running, breakaway speed, and glue hands. But here's the catch. Pulling off this trade means losing a young ascending talent like Calvin Austin, who had his best year in 2024, and committing over $30 million a year to not 1 but 2 receivers. That's a huge hit on the cap, especially when we don't even know who'll be throwing them the ball in 6 months. Rodgers already made it clear 2025 is probably his swan song. After that, what are we looking at? Mason Rudolph? Will Howard? That's a dicey situation. But from a fan's perspective, man, it's tempting. If we're really going all in for one last Super Bowl run with Rodgers, then swing for the fences, right? McLaurin could be the final piece that makes this offense elite. Now tell me, would you pull the trigger on this deal? Austin and a second-rounder for a shot at greatness this year? Or do you hold on to your ammo and aim for a new QB in next year's draft? Let me know. Because speaking of the future, there's another name being floated as Rodgers' potential successor, and this one's already lighting up the fan base. Here's the question nobody wants to answer, but we have to. Who's gonna be under center for the Steelers when Rodgers calls it a career? He's already hinted 2025 might be his final ride, so we can't just wing it. And now, Kyler Murray's name is being floated as the next man up in Pittsburgh. Yeah, you heard that right. former #1 overall pick, Pro Bowler, and once the face of the Cardinals franchise. According to TWSN's Daniel Alameda, Murray could be a real option for the Steelers after Rodgers exits. The logic? Arizona's over the drama, injuries, leadership concerns, and a massive contract that eats up cap space through 2028. Pittsburgh has a QB hole looming, and some think Murray could fill it. Now look, Kyler's got tools, live arm, elite mobility, and the ability to create magic when things break down. But does he fit the Pittsburgh mold? Here, it's not about flash. It's about grit, toughness, leadership. It's about showing up and earning respect in the locker room. And honestly, Kyler's track record raises questions. Injuries, inconsistent play, and that enormous deal, those are major red flags. Plus, we've got Will Howard developing behind the scenes. He might not be a sure thing, but he deserves a shot. And if that doesn't work out? The 2026 QB class is loaded. We've got 12 draft picks next year, including our first rounder. That gives us the ammo to move up and grab a real franchise guy. So here's the dilemma. Do we bet big on a known name with baggage, or build the future the right way? Our way. You tell me. Would you welcome Kyler Murray to the Steel City, or would that be a disaster waiting to happen? Because one thing's clear, if the Rodgers plan is shaky, we better figure out what's next, fast. And speaking of shaky, have you seen Rodgers lately at camp? Now let's talk about right now. And it's not pretty. Steelers training camp has exposed a truth many fans suspected but didn't want to say out loud. Aaron Rodgers looks flat. That's right. QB8 showed up with all the hype, ready to be the steady hand after Big Ben. But so far, it's been rough. First snap of camp, interception. Since then, he's looked hesitant, slow to pull the trigger, avoiding deep shots and relying way too much on checkdowns. That deep ball we all hoped for? Still missing, and that's a huge problem, especially considering his connection with DK Metcalf just hasn't clicked. Miscommunications, bad timing, overthrows, you name it. Even rookie Roman Wilson, who's been grinding, can't seem to sync up with Rodgers' rhythm. And now OC Arthur Smith is already talking about adjusting the offensive scheme mid-camp. Not a good sign. Sure, it's still early August, but first impressions matter. If you're bringing in a 41-year-old QB for one last shot, you can't afford a sluggish start. This kind of rocky beginning shakes team confidence, delays chemistry, and hurts offensive flow. Meanwhile, the defense is dominating, forcing turnovers, winning every drill, making it look like a huge gap between units. Sound familiar? Another season where the defense carries the weight, and the offense just tries not to blow it. It's déjà vu in the Steel City. And for fantasy football heads hoping for fireworks from Rodgers to Metcalf, you might be looking at more sparkler than sizzle. Short passes, safe routes, no explosive plays, reality check. So tell me, Pittsburgh, is this just early camp rust, or are we staring down a full-blown disappointment? Because if this offense doesn't wake up soon, not even McLaurin or Kyler will be able to save this season. And that leads us to the final question. After all the injuries, trade rumors, QB chaos, and practice struggles, who do we still believe in? Old school Steelers fans, take a deep breath, because this week has been one of those that tests even the most battle-hardened hearts of the terrible towel legacy. We've had a banged-up tight end, a blockbuster trade rumor, a polarizing quarterback shadowing our future, and a Rodgers who can't get it going. The Steel City soul is on high alert, and the question now is loud and clear. Can we still trust the plan? If this breakdown reminded you why you still believe in this team, smash that like button and drop a comment. Does Pittsburgh still have reason to dream, or are we watching the dream die in real time?